I don't know that comedians have had that much power.
Are
and
you
that
fucking
much.
out of your mind?
No, I'm being
Yeah,
serious.
Joe Rogan. I'm not gonna.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, you can't separate. Like if the movement is like, we're being censored. No, you're not. You're not. There's no constitutional censorship issue with your free speech. You say things, and in a democratic shit show of an environment, like Twitter or whatever, there's cultural pushback. And I'm not saying that it wasn't. It was pretty bad in terms of people getting canceled and stuff, and I agree that was an issue, but that's a specific issue. To frame it as some sort of free speech problem was a misdirect.
In a move that sparked debate among listeners, Bad Friends, hosted by Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino, has quietly removed all mention of guest Marc Maron from an episode they recorded with him. His name has been scrubbed from the title, thumbnail, and metadata across platforms. Reddit users were quick to notice and spread the word, with threads and fan communities pointing out the edits and speculating about the reasoning behind them. What makes this erasure especially notable is the content of Maron's viral commentary, specifically his critique of what's often referred to as the Rogan sphere, including Joe Rogan and insult comic Tony Hinchcliffe. In widely shared clips, Maron unloads on anti-woke comics, dismissing their act as lazy and sloppy and hackneyed, criticizing the redundant targeting of trans people, gay people, and women, and asking sharply, what is this, the fucking 80s again?
But my problem is you're going to start talking about anti-woke, and that's going to be your point of view. That's going to be your ideological, grounding for what you do. Okay, that's fine. But why does it have to be the same four fucking things? It's like they talk about the same shit. And I don't know a better definition of hack. I mean, after a certain point, it's like, so what juice does the word retard really have? How much shit do you have to give trans people? What is your big problem with gay people? What's your big problem with women? It's like, what is this, the fucking 80s again? And it's so, to me, the problem is that language evolves. Okay, we don't use the word chink anymore. Well, maybe some of them do. You don't use the word Oriental anymore. You don't use the word colored anymore. Is that, in a democratic world, people learn to treat other people with respect, communities, and live with it. So this pushback, I don't know how you frame it. I've said all the bad things on stage. I've been doing this a long time, under the radar in a lot of ways, and I have tried everything. I've done things that were inappropriate on stage. I've said things that were inappropriate on stage, and my experience with people receiving those things and talking to people, and I've evolved the way I present comedy. I think when you talk about Jeselnik, he's just saying that, isn't there a creativity workaround that could be funny without creating this juice that just comes from using words that used to be kind of triggering and are less now because the dominant cultural force is now slightly fascistic and leaning towards alienating those voices. So now that we've crossed that hump into what we are now, aren't you just kicking someone when they're down and just being a hack? Because there is no real progressive pushback anymore. They've won. Right, so that side has won. They've won culture, and they've won the presidency, and now you have a lot of frightened people that believe in what was once democracy in terms of respecting all types of people. That's kind of gone. So do you continue along that track of like being the victim of some liberal conspiracy when it clearly is over?
At the heart of Maron's argument is that these comics rely on shock value rather than creativity. He aligns with the view that comedians should practice a creativity workaround instead of recycling words that used to be kind of triggering. He also distinguishes cultural backlash from genuine free speech violations, stressing that there is no constitutional censorship issue with your free speech since no one was being put in jail for saying anything. This is social reaction, not a legal silencing. Maron expands further, suggesting the anti-woke faction has effectively won culture and the presidency, so perpetuating the narrative of liberal conspiracy victimhood is unnecessary. He reflects on how language evolves and societal codes shift over time, declaring that language evolves and invoking past offensive terms like chink or colored as relics of bygone eras. He also emphasizes the growing cultural weight that comedians now hold. In the age of your own show business, comedians can build huge audiences on independent platforms, a responsibility that cannot be shrugged off by saying, I'm just a comic.
If the audience that you build has decided they know what real comedy is, they know that woke people suck, they know that, whatever, scientists are liars, they know that, whatever the ideological foundation of that audience is, if you're a comic at the tip of that iceberg and you're championing that just by being funny and then skirting the responsibility by saying like, yeah, I'm just a comic, my fans are my fans, then I think you're being disingenuous or stupid. I do think that comedy or certain comedians have a great deal of cultural weight now.
Putting this together, Maron's viral stance against the Rogan Sphere's brand of comedy likely prompted the Bad Friends team to remove his name, perhaps as an attempt to dampen social media traction or avoid alienating parts of their audience. Reddit discussions reflect a split. Some see it as self-censorship or corporate caution, others as prudent risk management. Ultimately, this episode underscores the friction in modern podcasting between spotlighting controversial viewpoints and protecting brand and audience sensibilities. It illuminates how a guest's statements, especially when echoing broader cultural debates, can prompt rapid course corrections from hosts and platforms in the name of editorial discretion or damage control.